Sonic's channel.
Hey fans, Mykle the Human here, and welcome to part 2 of the Sonic Generations playthrough, and we have a Lebron of Blue Core Studios with us today. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, and this is one of your favorite stages, is that correct? Chemical Plant Zone?
Oh, that is correct. It's one of my favorite stages of all time in a Sonic game, and now it's in a more textured 3D format, so by default this is my favorite stage in Sonic Generations.
Yeah, and this is one of my favorite stages as well, especially to play as classic Sonic on it. It just brings back so many memories.
Oh, definitely.
Just so much nostalgia here.
It's just very interesting to see it, because back in the early days of Sonic, what really struck me about this stage was just how textured and the great use of color and space, and also in comparison to a lot of the stages in the first Sonic game, I would say right next to the final stage, you know, some of the stages near the end of the first game, this was probably the most technically complex, science fiction-y, industrial. It's the most industrial, scientific stage up to this point. It's a good contrast since Sonic is primarily known for being something very organic, involving Earth and the greenery, especially in the first game where you have Marble Hill, and even though you have Spring Yard, it wasn't as complex and as visceral as this. This is why I love this stage. It's just such a nice contrast to exactly what Sonic represents, which is the whole, I guess, nature versus technology type deal. This is as technological and complex as you can get. I would say right next to Death Egg.
Yeah, and that was one of my favorite stages as well. It would be nice to eventually see that stage remade in some kind of way.
Eventually? You would assume eventually they probably will. I mean, as successful and as solid and sound as this game is, I hope they tend to revisit a few more stages down the line for other games.
Yeah. And this stage will always have a special place in my heart because Sonic 2 was pretty much the very first video game I've ever played when I was like 4 or something.
Wow. There's a lot of good memories with this stage. And as a guy who's making a live-action Sonic movie, this is probably the stage that I desperately would love to see in some kind of live-action capacity.
Yeah.
It's like, that's like a primary motivation for me to go even beyond a first film, is just because I really, really want to see this type of texture, especially when you play it as modern Sonic. It's just, the scape and the grandiose of this type of stage would be fantastic. Just so many layers and so much texture.
Alrighty, just finished Act 1. Time to go to Act 2 as modern Sonic.
With modern Sonic.
Yeah, I kind of think the modern remix, like, I've gotten used to it now, and I think it's pretty good, but I thought the modern remix of this stage could have been better. Like, I think it could have gone for a more techno feel.
It didn't sound authentic enough. I liked the remix, I feel it was too much of a change in tempo and the melody. Like, you can hear it, but it was modified so much that if no one would have told you that this was a remix of Chemical Plant Zone, I don't think you would have known. We only know because it's right there in the game and it plays during the stage, but if you were to play it to me, I don't think I would have known. I would have known after multiple listens, like, okay, I can hear it, but it's just so, it was changed so intensely, but I guess that's to go with the modern feel, but what can you do?
Yeah, it does fit the fast-pacedness of the level though, but oh wow, I just died. So, yeah. But yeah, it does fit with how fast-paced the modern stages are though.
Yeah, definitely. It's so fun to watch this stage, because just the one thing about a great video game stage is, even if you can't, you know, if it's not a sandbox type game where you can visit every facet, if you can look in the distance and it's just endless detail and endless space, I feel an important part of modern day game design is the illusion of space that you can touch, and the fact that even if you can't touch it, you believe that if you go far enough, you can get far enough. Which it's comes out weird, but I mean, in Fallout 3, you can look everywhere and you know you can touch it. I mean, that's the game. That's just, it's a sandbox game where you can go everywhere, but it's a game like this in which you can just see in the distance and know that this is a great big world, and even if you can't visit all of it, it feels big, and it gives the illusion that there's endless possibilities.
Now, that would be really interesting if they ended up making a Sonic sandbox game.
That would be very interesting. Which is something that SEGA, I mean, they were in the direction, I mean, with that back in Sonic Adventure, where in between stages you were kind of exploring this whole world outside the stage. It would be wonderful if with today's technology and the endlessness that you can, you know, put into a game, combining those elements of Sonic Adventure with today's technology and being able to just kind of interact in this whole grand world, like going from Green Hill to Marble and actually seeing the bridge between the two and having to speed your way through this endless environment. That is something that you can probably see for another anniversary game if they're willing to put the effort into it.
Maybe 20 years later we'll get a Sonic Generations 2.
If it's something like that, that would be amazing. So
yeah, I wonder what Sonic's going to be like 20 years from now. Do you think they'll still be making Sonic games?
It's hard to perceive where gaming's going to be. It's going to be at an extraordinarily advanced point, but for historical sake, there's always going to be, just like movies, it's so many years later and King Kong is still relevant and Wizard of Oz is still relevant, and I still think Sonic will be relevant. He may not be the game, or, you know, like today we have Battlefield is kind of conquering first-person shooter with Call of Duty, and we have all of these current in-games. I don't know if Sonic will be in, but he will be still relevant in the whole grand scheme of gaming history.
Yeah.
I guess maybe like how Hulk Hogan is to wrestling, even though he shouldn't be wrestling today.
I wish Crash Bandicoot was still competing against Mario and Sonic, but Activision kind of killed him, so...
There's a never say never mentality to characters like Crash Bandicoot. I feel like the only character that's not never, but had potential and is now, you know, kind of in the void of endlessness is Bugsy. Since the first console game for Bugsy was a pretty big deal, and then he was just systematically killed off. There's still hope for Crash Bandicoot, but it's, for characters like Bugsy, it's much, much harder.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope they reboot the Crash Bandicoot franchise. That would be nice. That's one of my favorites.
It's a possibility. I see it happening in the next console generation. I guess mainly because we're about to end this console generation. I mean, once the next Nintendo system comes out, that begins next console generation, and then we have the whole Xbox 720 and PS4. It could be a title for PS4.
Yeah. Make it a Sony exclusive game again.
Yeah, imagine the mechanics of Crash Bandicoot mixed with the Limitless and the detail of Skyrim. That would be something that would bring him back.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm under the school of thought that any dead franchise, and I guess even this goes back to what I said about Bugsy, but then again, his momentum was killed way early on. Any successful franchise can be rebooted and rebooted right, but a company has to care enough and be willing to put in the effort, and a lot of companies at some point aren't, which is unfortunate.
Alrighty now, that's about it for part 2 of the Sonic Generations playthrough, and Eddie, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, it's just, what a great way to celebrate the birthday of Sonic with this game. This just goes to show that SEGA, I personally think, is aware and does care about the fans, but the fans don't give them too much credit. Then again, the last 10 years have been quite a ride with Sonic, but I feel Generations is an amazing step in the right direction to bringing Sonic back to his former glory.
Alright, thank you for joining us, and don't forget to check out Lebron's channel. I have the links as the annotations and in the description. And yeah, you're gonna like his videos. He has some pretty awesome stuff. Some footage of the Sonic fan film, trailers, and things like that. Make sure you check it out. And thank you again for joining us. This is Mykle the Human. See you guys next time.
See ya.